Well, hello everyone. I'm Amarissa Imoukhuede, founder and editor-in-chief of Fashion Talk, and I'm really excited to be here today, guest hosting for the Ethereal. We've got a really special and amazing conversation lined up with someone who's not only shaped media as we know it today, but someone who continues to inspire us through creativity and importantly, authenticity. Today we have Piera Gelardi. So let's get into everything. Real quick, so Piera, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be talking to you.
I'm very happy to be talking to you as well. So, I want us to rewind a little bit to the early 2000s.
Mm,
An interesting time, a very, mimicked time, I would like to say, especially in today's age.
mm,
So, if we're rewinding back to the early 2000s, people were still, this is a time where people were still downloading songs off like LimeWire. Flip phones were still a thing. And fashion media, if we're to be very honest, was very overwhelmingly white, thin, and elite.
hmm
And then we had Refinery 29 come onto the scene, and it must have felt like a disruption. What did it feel like being a woman building a media company in a time in that type of cultural climate? And then also when it came to centering, women and just underrepresented voices in general, how did you and your team approach that from the jump?
Yeah. So yeah, it was a exciting time because it also was kind of the wild wild west to enter digital media at that time because um yeah, there was blogs, there were a few startup media fashion companies like Daily Candy, which was a newsletter product at the time, but there wasn't a lot, and most of the big publishers and big brands thought that digital was cheap.
Mm,
They just thought it was a passing trend that was just going to be, here today, gone tomorrow. And so they weren't really focusing on it, and didn't take it seriously. And so for us, it was really fun. I had worked in magazines for a few years before I started Refinery, and I felt really energized by how quickly you could create content and put it up, and how quickly you could get feedback on it. When you work in magazines, the feedback you get is sometimes at that time was letters in the mail or an
mm,
email. Um, Now, of course, it's different. There's more immediacy with social media and everything. But at that time, it felt really exciting to be able to get that immediate feedback. And we started really small. We started with a focus on elevating independent voices in fashion. So we wanted to elevate the independent designers, the people with unique communities of style around them that weren't getting attention in those big kind of legacy publications. And so that was our initial community that really built with us. So we started as a very grassroots, like word of mouth, newsletter based product built into a blog, built into having a blog. And the people that we were writing about ended up being our early evangelists, our early advertisers.
mm,
And so it was this community of people that wanted to kind of change the narrative and change, the world of style. And part of what we were doing in those early days was also, I was out on the street doing a lot of street style. I would stop people and take their picture. I would, these independent designers and independent stores we would feature all the time. And I also was doing, for anything that we were shooting, I would do street casting. So really wanted, we were in New York City. We really, part of it was just wanting to represent the diversity of the city around us, the people that were reading the site, and just, and part of it was just like being inspired by the people that I saw on the street. I would go around and pass out casting cards to people that I thought, had really great style and interesting looks. And
mm.
um, so that's how it started. And, like most things, it was, just doing so many different things myself, and a lot of trial and error, and building from there. And at the time, we joked that we wanted to be the anti Vogue, but never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that, we would be, actually like, in later years, we were, kind of like Vogue's nemesis because we did get that early start in digital, and we were speaking to, younger generation. Um, I never would have like imagined, like, now I'll walk by a store and I'll see, outside they're like, as featured in Vogue, New York Magazine, Refinery 29, and still like my
Wow.
younger self is just like, what? Like, I can't believe that we're in that company. So yeah, it's been a ride, but so much has changed since the early 2000s.
Oh, for sure. That's truly amazing. I love the whole grassroots efforts of it all. Did you always know that you were going to, start a media publication even when you were younger? Was that always your career trajectory?
No, I had a lot of different ideas about what I might be when I was younger. In fact, like when I was in high school, I was debating between going into science or going into art.
Mm,
And so when I applied to colleges, I was applying to programs on both, both in the science and then in art, and ended up deciding to pursue the art path. But I always loved storytelling. I actually recently, my mom found all these old report cards and letters from teachers from when I was a kid, and it reminded me that I always loved telling stories. And so I think I had an interest in editorial. And when I was a teenager, I grew up in a small town, and my mom's best friend got me a subscription to this teen magazine in the 90s called Sassy Magazine. And it was this really, it was music, culture, style magazine for teenagers, but it was very real, raw, and relatable.
mm.
Um, like the staffers would give the most honest reviews of beauty products, and they had this section called Dopey Fashion Poses where they would parody, popular fashion poses, and it was very funny. And so I just loved, and I remember one of the first issues that I got, there was Jenny Garth, who was like in the original 90210. She was in this fashion shoot, and she had her feet to the camera, and the bottom of her shoes had the like price tag from the thrift store on the bottom. And so I loved it because it was really like this mix of high and low, and it was real, it was raw, it was relatable, it was much more um, funny and self-aware and had more attitude than most of the magazines out there. So that was really an early point where I just was like, I was dreaming like, oh, I would love to live in New York. I would love to like know the people. I would love to know the people that make this magazine and kind of be in this world. And so I think that was an early kind of thread that pulled me toward the world of editorial. And then when I was in college, I I was, I was in an art program, but then I was babysitting. That was like my side gig, and then I got an internship as well at this fashion magazine. And so there, it was really small, and I got to really know all the different parts of how the magazine came together, from the design, photography, editorial, and then also even the advertising side, because it was only a few people that worked there. So that was an early like window into content, and from there I kind of got hooked.
Amazing. I think the one of the most special things about life is, when you embark on like a path that you just never thought you would never saw yourself on initially,
Yeah.
and then the fruits of your labor, like the amazing results that you received from this path that you never saw coming. That's amazing. I mean, I noticed that Refinery 29 even turned, I think, 20. Um
I
a
think
couple
you're right.
Yeah, like a couple days ago, and that's just a true testament to the work and, the longevity of the whole brand and just the work you guys put in as a team. It shows that you guys really built something to last, which is amazing. So then I would
20
love,
years.
yeah, 20
Oh,
years. I think it was on the 18th or something.
oh my gosh.
20 years.
I didn't even know. I didn't even celebrate. We can celebrate now.
I mean, yeah, why I mean, let's clap. Let's
Let's
clap
go.
for you and your team. Clap for
A
RNA
cake.
29 because, we love that publication. So then I have a question. So, with Refinery just turning 20, if you were to think of your early days, right? What is something that you say you're deeply proud of, but it's something that doesn't always make the headlines?
Mm, that's a great question. The early days, I think the main thing is just what you said, this all the hard work that went into it and all the experimentation and trial and error that necessarily goes into most things that we don't really hear about.
Right.
We were 8 years into building when people started saying, wow, you popped off, wow, you're an overnight success. And so I think I want to I'm proud of the first 8 years where no one was saying that, but where we still held on and kept building and celebrated the small wins to keep building from there. It's things take time, and we're in a culture that often just celebrates or makes it seem like things are quick wins, and there's really not the case, and it's not most people's experience either. And the fact that we present it that way then makes it feel like, oh, my struggle, my 3 steps backward, 1 step forward is a sign that I'm not doing it right, or that I'm not on the right path. And I think it really came down to you know persistence and
Mhm.
continuing to build off of what was working, and being flexible to see what was working and building off of that, and being able to release things that didn't work anymore or didn't make sense anymore, and keep going.
Yeah. I mean, you're so right that nowadays people are very used to instant gratification.
Mm,
I mean, we do see overnight successes, honestly, especially with
yeah,
like, people just having so many platforms where so many digital platforms where we're so connected to the world. So there are things like overnight successes, but for majority of people, there is that hard work you have to put in for something to really grow, especially like a refinery 29, right?
yeah.
During those first 8 years, how did you and your team keep yourselves creatively inspired, and how did you work through all the ebbs and flows of the time period?
Yeah, I mean, it did feel really energizing to be in this new space, and to be doing something different from a lot of other people. So that gave us a lot of energy. I personally got so much energy from just the ability to be connected with our audience. Like, in the early days, I used to moderate all the comments myself. I would go in and look at the analytics every day and send a report to the team, about what was working. And I found that really, that's still something that always really motivates me. Is I'm motivated by impact and by hearing those little anecdotes about, no matter how small, but of how something inspired someone or changed, the way they carried themselves or the creative choices that they made. Like that to me is what truly motivates me, more so than sometimes even the big success moments. So that was something, because it was new at the time to be able to get that instant feedback,
Right.
um, and also to learn from our mistakes too. And there was to hear our audience and be able to kind of course correct when we, did something they felt was not, you know, not it, and to go from there, um, was was a gift. It was really special, and then I think we had a lot of fun too. Um, I
That's
just really
important.
love the people. I feel like what we did best at Refinery was just bringing in really amazing talent, like people that just had um, so much personality and so many passions and curiosity and interest. And so I always just felt so inspired by the people that I worked with, and yeah, just even hearing what they were doing in their lives, and hearing the references and things that they brought to the table. I used to do this meeting that was my favorite meeting, that I did for, I think, over 10 years. So do this monthly creative meeting where everyone would come to the table, and um, we would look at, celebrate the wins. We would have people would present things that they learned, and we would basically do this exercise where everyone shared something that they did that they were really proud of, something that they thought could be better, that they wanted to improve, and like one inspiration from the outside world that they were, just feeling energized by. And I just loved that because it was such a great way to celebrate together, to hold ourselves accountable for what we wanted to continue to evolve and change, and then to talk about the things that were happening, around us that we wanted to take inspiration from, or talk about and learn from.
Amazing. I mean, that's beautiful. It's so like empowering to have such a tight knit team, or full of people that you're creatively inspired by. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm just going to work today. You
Yeah.
feel like, oh, I'm actually I'm going to have fun with these group of people, and we're building something that we feel like the world needs. So that's honestly amazing. So I want to shift gears a bit to you personally. So you're really known for your, expressive and creative personal style. So I'd like to know how much did that shape the early branding of Refinery 29? And do you feel like your personal creative identity was always reflected in the brand's identity?
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like friends feel like that my personal identity was very much in the brand identity, and I see it as much more of a collaborative effort. But I
Mhm.
do think, it's at the end of the day, like, I was the creative director of Refinery, so naturally, like, the things that I was inspired by, and that I how I shaped the company were probably informed by my own, like, tastes and interests, and, my love of color, and,
Right.
um, of expressiveness, and, the things that, yeah, just the energy, and even that, like, real, raw, relatable, wanting things um, to be a little bit, unpolished, even though though they looked really good. But yeah, I think it was kind of a mix, and it was an evolution. And like I was saying, with that creative meeting that we would have, I always wanted to get inspiration from everyone else, because I'm one person, but together we have such a richer tapestry of, like, reference points, um, and inspirations. So I think what I would try and do was kind of like align us around, like, the core elements that our brand, like, like, represented our brand, and the core kind of principles, like, visually. But then within that, we would constantly be evolving and bringing new things to the table. So I think it was a mix. But of course, like, I think one per I think our tastes and our vision for things influences what we work on. So it was probably a bit me, but it was such a collaborative effort, like, from the beginning.
100%. 100%. So you often use this word play a lot. That's
Mm,
like your whole philosophy, which
yeah.
I'm assuming that played its role in, Refinery 29 as well. So how would you, describe this creative approach using this philosophy of play? And what does play mean to you? How does that philosophy show up in your work in general?
Yeah. To me, being playful is being curiously and creatively engaged with life. So that comes into my work in basically a way of always sort of seeing things as playable. Like, anything that happens, there's sort of a pressured approach you can take, where you're fighting against something, and or you're trying to push through. And then there's a playful approach you can take, which is you're working with it, you're seeing it as something that is, that you can experiment with, that is a bit of an adventure. And so that's the mindset that I try and approach everything with. And then within the day to day of my work, I bring different playful exercises and techniques into things like brainstorms, so that I can help everyone get into a bit more of that playful mindset. So I often warm up a brainstorm with like a moment of physical motion because it sort
Oh.
of levels the playing field. And people would come into my office and I would, do a shakeout with them where, it's silly but it's also showing them that like, I'm just as silly as you are. We can like leave our egos at the door because we're here to be creative and to be open together. So I would try and do that. I would bring a lot of humor into a lot of the work that I did because at the end of the day, it's not that serious, like and humor is such a powerful tool for diffusing tension and often also speaking the truth in a way that is a little bit more easily digestible. So that's a big one for me. I mean, I use that in my family as well, just trying to like trying to just keep things like light and fun. Not that not it's not about like not taking anything seriously, but in
Mhm.
those moments where there's a lot of tension, I find that bringing humor can really help. And yeah, and then taking really a spirit of experimentation, like sort of trying to see everything as an experiment so that we don't get so attached to the work that we're doing and the outcome that we're looking for, and we can keep that open-minded spirit of learning. And I think it also makes us much more resilient when things don't go the way that we want them to, or something's not received the way that we want it to. We can learn from it and keep rolling and keep experimenting. But play, the other part of play for me is that in building a company for 15 years, there were definitely points where I was really burnt out.
Mhm.
It's a lot of it was just a lot of grinding, and so I found that in those moments where I didn't have a lot of inspiration, where I felt like my tank was really really empty, often what helped me to refill it was basically like creative play, creative adventures. Essentially, like it was taking a improv class after work, or taking a storytelling class, or going and doing a pottery thing with friends after work. Just things that I felt like got me back in touch with my own creative spirit and loosened up that sort of attachment and tightness to the outcome, and let me release some of the pressure of what was my responsibilities.
Got it. No, that's really amazing. Would you say that that's always been your creative mindset, or was there like a specific time in your life where you were like, you know what, I need to stop taking everything too seriously and maybe just start having fun with everything? Would you say there was like a moment, an experience that really
Mhm.
helped you build this philosophy play?
Yeah. So I grew up in a pretty playful family. It was kind of interesting because my dad is very much like a work hard mentality, and that's comes from his family as well. But he's also very playful. So like it's funny, he was looking at his grandkids when they were like 3 and 4 years old, and he looked at them and he said, "I hope these kids learn to work hard."
Dad, they're
I was like, "Oh,
three.
that's where that comes from." Okay. Um, but he's also yeah, like playful. He's an inventor, engineer. Like so, he's always like kind of tinkering. And my mom is very artistic. She's a social worker, but like also very artistic. So I feel like I had a pretty playful upbringing. Um, and then as I mentioned before, I worked in childcare for like almost like yeah, like almost 15 years, from when I was 12 years old to when I was 25.
Mm.
And so in that definitely, I feel like spending that much time with kids like definitely keeps your kind of playful spirit there. But then actually, as we were building refinery and things, when we got past, like when we got into the period where we were growing faster. We were bringing in people from more corporate backgrounds to help us to grow and scale the company. And there was just a lot more pressure on me and the company. And I started to feel like like a kid at the adults table, because people were coming that had a more corporate background than I did, and they were using a lot of jargon and, acronyms and things that I didn't understand, and also just were approaching things in a much more serious way than we had, as we were growing the company. And so I started to feel like my way of being playful and exploratory and experimental, I started to feel like that was wrong, and that to grow
Mm.
the company, I needed to change and I needed to abandon that, that very core part of who I was. And so I started to sort of put that away and try and, you know, be more serious, look more, try to look more in command. And I remember I like didn't want to ask questions because I thought everyone was going to know, would see how I didn't know what I was doing. And so I started to really have a lot of imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And um, I, by putting away that sort of playful side of myself and, trying to put on this facade and this persona that wasn't really me, I also started to be a lot less resilient. I started to be a lot less stressed out. I mean, it's a lot more stressed out. And I had this moment where I was, I just felt so stressed out that I was like, coming home and like crying and having all this just I just lost perspective basically. And in the in that moment, I remember I made this list of all the ways I was failing, and I felt like I was failing in like every aspect of my life. I wrote like failing, as a leader, as a creative, as a daughter, as a friend. Like I'm not, not spending enough time with my friends. I'm not, giving my parents enough attention. I wrote, I'm failing in fertility because I was trying to get pregnant for like 7 years and it was like not working. And I
Mm.
did this whole list of all these ways that I was failing. And, um, basically in that moment, I was overworked, underplayed, and I was trying to be someone that I wasn't. And basically, I ended up realizing I needed help because I just knew that this was like I was just had no perspective and I was just really burnt out. And so I found a coach and I started working with this coach. And she suggested, first of all, you know, that I needed to do something for myself. So I signed up for an improv class. And then she also kind of challenged me to, instead of trying to pretend I was someone else, that I was this like serious, buttoned up corporate person, she was like, what if you saw these things, these qualities of yourself that actually got you to the point in your business where you could hire these corporate people with this, this experience that you need. Um,
Mhm.
what if you saw those qualities that got you to this point as your superpowers that you can lean on to get you to the next point? And so she said, like, what if you lean on your curiosity? You've really brought this like curious mindset to everything that you've done. What if you lean on that? What if you lean on your humor? Let's see what happens. And so like one of the moments that I vividly remember from that was, with that mindset, I said, okay, in the next meeting, I'm going to ask the questions that I've been pretending that I know the answers to. And so I'm in the meeting and, someone uses jargon I don't understand. And I basically made a joke and I said, oh, you know, jargon is my kryptonite. Would you mind just explaining that to me? And it was terrifying because I thought, oh, here I am going to like show everyone what an imposter I am. But what happened was that I wasn't laughed out of the room. I noticed that people actually leaned in to hear the answer. And then after the meetings, when I would ask these questions, people would come up to me and say, thank you for asking that question. I really didn't know what the person was talking about. And so, like, it was really, I couldn't believe it because it was basically, I thought that by having the vulnerability to ask these questions, I would show that I didn't, that I was stupid or that I was uninformed. And actually, it built my credibility and it opened up the knowledge for everyone that was in the room. And so that moment was really a powerful one for me where I essentially realized, yeah, the power of like my own, like leaning on my own authentic superpowers, not just not just as they were, but actually as tools to help me grow to the next level. It's not like I think where I was at was I had these powers that had gotten me to this one place, but then I had to go into this next place that was really unfamiliar. But I essentially realized that I could use those, like basically those qualities to springboard me and to make me feel comfortable make me feel like more grounded as I moved to the next level. And I had to learn things I didn't know, and I had to um, do things I hadn't done before. But it just was essentially just like really helped me to get to that next place, and to do so in a way where I could still be me and I didn't have to pretend to be somebody else.
Right. It's really just a testament to authenticity. I think authenticity just really always will win at the end of the day. There's always going to be someone that judges you when you ask a question, but I think that's just so important, especially as you're trying to grow in life, to be able to be open to asking questions.
Yeah,
And then we look at people and not think, oh, this person asks this question because they're not smart, but this person asks this question because they want to learn. Like they're
yeah,
open to learning and they're not afraid to show a weakness, which is really an opportunity for them to just keep growing.
yeah. It's interesting because I was talking to someone in my family about it, and she said that when someone asks a question, she always thinks, wow, that person is so confident because they're taking space.
Yeah,
They're asking for space so that they can get clarity. And like there is a that's something that we are often taught not to do, is to like take our space and to um you know to do that, I think, is an act of confidence. And yeah, I don't know, it's just like a gift we can give ourselves, but it's not always easy to do because it is sort of counter often to like how we're taught. But there's also research that shows that people that ask questions are perceived as smarter,
mm,
and people who ask for advice too.
yeah. I mean, it's just such a brave. I feel like it's just such brave action,
Yeah,
um, to like really drop. Oh, this person could perceive me this way if I ask this type of question, but to just kind of take that out of the equation and really say, I want to learn and I
yeah,
just want to grow, and I really don't care what anyone else could think about said
yeah,
question I'm going to ask. So it's really just very brave,
yeah.
honestly.
I think it's generous too. That's what I
Yeah,
realized. It's generous because it also models for other people that you
exactly.
can ask questions, that you can take that space, that you can seek that clarity. And also, what I really realized was that most of the time people are not asking, they're pretending to know things they don't know. And so when you ask a question and you get that clarity spoken out loud, then you're providing that clarity to everyone else that's afraid to ask a question.
Exactly.
There's a lot of things, especially in a corporate environment, like people use all kinds of jargon, all kinds of acronyms, and it's that's not like human language.
Exactly.
Not
Like,
human
be
language.
normal for a second.
Most people have no idea what is going on,
Right, exactly.
which is such a waste of time. It's such a waste of time. So like I feel like people need to like talk like humans, ask questions, and share information.
Yeah, as easy as that. Yep. So, in talking about play again, I noticed on your Instagram series, I think this is in 2024, you had a series about like what you did that month that like helped you really hone in that play philosophy. And then I also noticed that you did start a Substack, which I'm such a champion of Substack, so that's really amazing. And then you have some stories that talk about this philosophy, and then now you have a book coming out called The Playful Way, which I'm actually really excited and just learning more about how you really see this philosophy. I can't wait to see what you put in this book. What
Yeah.
inspired you to turn all of that into a book, and how did that writing process make you feel?
Mm. You've done your research. I love it. It's been such a yeah, it's been such a process. But yeah, basically, I got into this. So play is, as I mentioned, like it's been part of how I've operated in the world, but there was that moment where I just had like completely lost touch with it, and then realized how important it is for me to, for my resilience, for my feeling of aliveness, and my feeling of like being authentic to myself. And so then I continued to weave it through my work, with Refinery. And then basically during the pandemic, we were all obviously confined to our homes. I was a new mom. I felt like I needed like something to spark my creativity, but there wasn't, couldn't, there weren't a ton of options, I felt.
Mm.
And I got really into, my friend was teaching this form of joyful cathartic dance called dancercism that she created. And she was doing a teacher training. So it was basically like an 8-week course to learn this dance technique and the underlying philosophy of it, and to get trained as a teacher. And I had no intention of becoming a dance teacher, but I thought this seems fun. I could definitely use more movement in this moment where my, step count went from like being a New Yorker to being like, a homebody. And so I signed up for it, and basically just loved the practice. To get certified, I had to teach 2 classes, and so I just opened it up to friends and family. And I taught these 2 classes on Zoom, and I just felt so aligned and alive. And my friends and family that joined said that it was like so life giving for them. They loved it so much. They thought it was so fun. They thought I was so in my element. And so I just put it on Instagram, and I said, would anyone want to come? I'm teaching this kind of dance. Would anyone want to come to like a Zoom class? And I just said, DM me if you're interested. And then, basically in that day, like 250 people DM me, I want to take this dance class. So then I had to figure out how to, get their emails and send them an invite to it and everything. And um, I taught, I taught for all these people. It just was, again, felt like such a joyful experience. And so I just started teaching this joyful form of dance I was just doing it as a hobby, as a gift of joy during the pandemic. I was teaching 3 times a week for 9 months. I had thousands of people from all over the world come and dance with me. And as I was doing it, I just was really moved by what people were telling me. They were saying, this is helping my mental health. This is helping my anxiety. This is making me feel connected to my mom or my best friend who is on another continent and I haven't been able to hang with. Um, and so I was like, this is really potent. There's something like very important here. And of course, movement is so cathartic and healing.
Mhm.
And so there's that. But I also realized that it was giving adults the permission to play, because the way I taught was just it was very permissive. It was very like no good, no bad, just dance. There was like light choreography suggestions, but it wasn't very 5, 6, 7, 8. And so people just really flourished from that permission to play. And so from there, I just got really obsessed with like researching play, learning about the power of play in adulthood, and just realizing that we're play deprived. Most adults are play deprived, and it is keeping us from really being our most alive and connected selves. And so, yeah, I just like really got inspired by that and started teaching all these different play workshops, doing these events in New York City, like bringing people together to draw each other in the park, or do a dress up and draw event. or just trying all these different in-person events. And in the process, I was talking to a friend, and I said, I was telling him everything that I was working on, and he was like, you need to write a book to show, to like solidify this philosophy and these things that you've learned, and like also these these stories. And so I said, great, I'll do that. um, so yeah, it's been a fun process. I'm not, I've always written, but I wouldn't call myself a writer by trade. I
Mhm.
was always with Refinery. I was, worked on a lot of content, but I was, mostly focused on the more visual aspects of our brand, like, the experiential, like 29 rooms, and the design, photography, brand partnerships, that type of stuff. So it was a challenge for me. It's a challenge for me to write a book. Like, just because I've never done that before, but it was really fun, and it was exciting to take what I had learned from this, from my whole life, but especially this period where I've really like, I can't say the grammar right, dove deep into play. I think that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, to take what I've learned through that and create a very actionable guidebook for people to identify their play persona, and to see how they can weave that playfulness into their day-to-day lives to transform everyday moments and also bigger challenges through the power of play.
Amazing. When in 2026 does this book come out?
Comes out in
If you can.
February. So yeah, it comes out in February. So yeah, we'll start doing like the pre-order in the fall. It's been a long process, especially as someone that worked in digital media, and you'd have an idea, and sometimes it would be up the same day. Um,
Mhm.
to work on a book over the course of 2 years has been a lesson in patience for me.
Oh, for sure. But probably gonna be so rewarding once it comes
Yeah,
out, just knowing, like, I wrote a book.
yeah, I
It's
know.
amazing.
Yeah, I have a friend who passed away last year, but when I told him I was writing the book, he was like, that's life goals. It's like so many people want to write a book, and
Yeah.
it's a process, and just like a reminder to me, yeah, that um, yeah, those like projects and those dream things you want to do, it's good to just do it.
Yeah, it's possible.
It's
Just gotta
possible. I mean,
gotta
as
hop
it was a
in.
process. It was a lot of doing my play practices to trick myself into writing the book, like wrote a lot
Yeah.
of notes to myself, a lot of notes to self, like little pep talks, and little like, just working through I feel like there's so much like creative resistance that our brain puts there for us when we try and do things that are new and daring, and like put us out there, but it's yeah, it's possible.
It's definitely possible. Would you say that you can see yourself writing more books, or was it like a one and done thing for you?
I don't know, I love collaborating with people. That's sort of, I feel like, how I ended up, in the world of like content and media, was like I just love
Mhm.
like working with people, and I was so, always so inspired by the people I worked with at Refinery. And so writing a book is a little bit solitary for me. What I had to like, I do have a writing group, so that was a lifesaver. Was like, I'm in a group with like two other friends, and they've both been working on their own books, and so we talk every day, and we share voice notes every day, and have like gone through the whole process together. So that makes the hugest difference. But I don't know. I might write. We'll see. I'm excited to get this book into people's hands. The book has all these creative practices in it, so I'm excited to like some of my friends are already doing some of the practices, so that gives me life to have my friend text me and tell me that she's doing like her coffee cup portal, and you know manifesting things like through her coffee cup portal, and that's like one of the exercises in the book. So that, I feel like when it gets in people's hands and when people are doing the exercises, then that might inspire me to write another book. But I
Yeah.
also I would definitely be interested in writing a children's book. Each chapter in the book starts with a rhyming poem, and I feel like that was like
Very cute.
my warm up to maybe doing a kid's book.
Yeah, no, that's very cute. And it actually like that'll be like a full circle moment since you were, babysitting for such a long time in your life.
Yeah,
Just everything can connect.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
so
my
cool.
daughter really wants me to do a children's book, obviously.
Good for her.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, you can even just write her a book and then see if
yeah.
she loves it. And then you're like,
I
you know
know.
what? Maybe I can sell this to everyone.
I Well, what I love is that, like, at the beginning of the year, we were talking about the new year, and I was like asking her if she had any goals for the year. And she said one of her goals was to write a book. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, I was like,
nice.
that's amazing. And then I was like asking, kind of talking to her about like the process of it. And then she was like, basically, like, what are you talking about? She's like, give me some paper, give me some paper and a pen. And then she just sat and wrote a book.
It's so interesting how like I've noticed that so many younger people like know how to just like simplify things.
Yeah.
Whereas we like overthink and overcomplicate certain things and you're like, no, just do it like this. And it's like, why didn't I think of it? Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. Like I was overcomplicating it, and she's like, "Mom, just give me a pen and paper."
Because
Like,
realistically, that's really what you need to write a book.
yeah. Yeah. So she made a little like illustrated book about a bee going to the spa.
That's so cute. Oh my goodness, I love that. So, in the spirit of just taking creative risks, what would you tell creatives who are trying to build something meaningful but may feel like stretched thin or just feel like this is like a whole new avenue that I've never explored? How would you, what would you tell them to just, inspire them?
Yeah. I think one is think of it as an experiment. I think when we break something down from this big scary goal to an experiment, it just helps
Mhm.
us to actually take faster action and to focus on learning and not get as defeated by setbacks that inevitably come along the way.
Right.
Seek creative community. I, could never have done what I did. And even like I said with the book, having other people that are writing books at the same time that I can talk to has just given me so much solidarity and inspiration and camaraderie. So in any enterprise, any pursuit, finding even if it's one person, we need that to just help us to
Right.
rally and help us to, complain when we need to complain, and then move on from it and keep going.
Right.
So I think that's really, really important. And then the last one is like fill your creative tank.
For sure.
I think often when we think we couldn't possibly have time to you know go line dancing at the end of the day, or take a pottery class, or even go for a run. That's when we need it the most. So the more stuck you feel, the more you need to prioritize refilling your tank with movement, with inspiration, with something creatively outside your comfort zone. There's this idea that I saw of like creative cross training. Like, sometimes when we're stuck in one area, then actually exploring our creativity in another area can really help us to keep moving and to find new inspiration. And I've definitely found that in my own life, that it was taking inspiration and getting out of my comfort zone a bit to try something new and in a totally different creative area than what I was working on gave me just, yeah, like new energy and a new spark. So I
For
think those three things, like, take it as an experiment, find your creative community, and refill your tank. And you got this.
Yeah, exactly. I love the whole experiment part. I mean, I've actually never even thought of it like that because now if you're saying, okay, I'm doing an experiment, you're not as afraid to possibly fail because with an experiment, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
So I love that outlook. I also really do agree that you really, as a creative, have to take yourself out of your daily routine because that's how you can have creative burnout.
Mm.
I know this is about me, but really quickly,
Yeah,
like for me, even I like have tried to start doing like creative days once a month. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do something really random this month. Like last month, I went to a dog show. I don't care
sure.
about things like that, but I was like, I need to pick something just really random and something I would never do in my life, and just kind of like have like a new lease on life. Like what else are people doing out there? What other like cool, fun, interesting things are people doing out there that could possibly inspire me? And then now I can bring this to my own creative life. So
Mhm.
I definitely
Yeah.
100% agree with everything that you said. So just looking ahead, what kind of creative world do you hope the next generation of, let's say, women founders specifically, that we get to build? And what shifts do you think need to happen in the culture today to make that world possible?
Oh, we need a lot of shifts. The creative world of founders is that I hope that there is more support, more access to capital for
Mhm.
women founders, especially when women founders of color who have the least access to capital. Um, I want also to, yeah, for me and what I'm working on right now, it's like I want the next generation of people and for all of us to be able to explore our creativity more, to have that open spirit of play so that we can. I think there's just like also such a disconnect between us right now, like in the world, like so many people feel disconnected. There's so much like conflict. And I do think that when we tap into that spirit of creativity and play, those are actually like kind of love forces, and they're forces of connection, and they're forces of like where that allow us to like be on a more real and authentic level and cut down like some of the artifice and ego and
Mhm.
like so that's something that I think like I'm really passionate about, helping people to um, tap into their creativity, because it also helps us to just be like more well overall, to feel more alive, more ourselves, more connected to, when we're connected to ourselves, like we can be more connected to others as well. And then yeah, like in the world of like women entrepreneurs, I mean, I do feel like one of the biggest barriers is like that access, the lack of capital, that hasn't changed very much. I think it was like, I don't think it's changed hardly at all. And we need people to invest in women founders and to see that women founders drive better results, and they are
Yep.
more connected to the customer, and they're, naturally more responsible, more empathetic, and more able to run businesses. So give us the money.
Snaps to that.
The money.
I love it. I love it. So before we wrap today,
Yeah.
I want to do a quick activity if you are open to
Ooh,
it.
please.
And you're actually going to lead it.
Oh, great.
So, are you ready? So,
Yeah.
I just want to know, like, I really want to get myself into that play mindset before I go into the weekend. What is something that you said that like you would have people maybe come into your office and you maybe have them like do like a quick dance move or something random. So, give us
Okay.
like a cool little move that we can do that can just ease nerves and just have us like open our minds for the weekend.
Okay. Well, it's funny. I just led a play. I just led a play session, and so the activity that we did um, was to.
We can stand up if we want. I'm totally fine with
Okay.
that.
Okay. Um, Okay, I like to just like one of the things I do is just a shakeout. So it's
Okay.
just like thinking about like something that you need to
So,
release right now. So
okay.
just like also we're always like text neck, computer neck. So first we're just gonna reach up and look up.
Okay.
Oh, stretch your neck. And then yeah, roll your shoulders, roll your head, juicy head rolls one way and the other.
Definitely needed this because
Right?
I
We always need it. Like,
Busy.
yeah, it's like just like even looking at the ceiling is a must do. And then I like to do a shakeout. So we do like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with the right arm, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with the right foot,
Okay, I'm definitely doing like opposite legs. I'm
five,
kind of
four,
like
three, two, one, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we do 4, 3, 2, 1.
nice.
Okay, ready? Five,
Yeah.
4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh.
2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, we got our
I
yards
love
out.
it. I love it.
We did our very silly thing for the day.
I
Um,
love it.
the other thing I had people do today was to write the first letter of your name 5
Mhm.
different ways and just really
Oh.
have fun with it and like embrace your inner 7-year-old that was like practicing like calligraphy and cartoons
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So these are the
Yeah,
ones I
write
did
that
in
into the
our
script.
daybreak. I did like a fancy P. I did like a
Oh,
P
so cute.
that's a little tube top lady with her hair swirling around.
Oh, you're super creative.
That's a fun one. It's just like anything, like you can pick anything. You can say, I'm going to draw a coffee cup 5 different ways. I'm going to draw
Mhm.
the first letter of my name 5 different ways. But it's a good way to get um, your mind moving. Or you can also do it with
I love it.
circles.
I feel freer, honestly, from even doing a shakeout.
Yeah, right. It's like it's just these little moments. That's what I think is really interesting because when we do these little moments of play, we work through these little moments of resistance. Like, I would always find that when I would like say we're going to do the shakeout, people would be like, I could see people like being like, no, we're not. And and I even like leading it, I would be like, I can't believe I'm so cringe. Like, can't believe I'm doing this. But when we just do the little challenge, 1 minute, 30
Mhm.
seconds, and we move through it, we show ourselves that we can move through that creative resistance on a bigger level too. So that's the power of those small moments of play.
Well, I love that, Pierre. Thank you so, so
Thanks
much
so
for
much. You're
sharing.
amazing.
You're amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. This was honestly such an inspiring session. Just even learn about your philosophy of play. I think it's so important, especially as a young adult, like just to like know that like at the end of the day, everything's gonna be okay. Let me just not take everything so serious, like it's the end of life, you know?
Yeah.
So just like talking through this philosophy of play is just so important to me personally. I know that whoever listens to this interview will really, really enjoy hearing about that. This conversation was such a gift. So thank you so, so much for being here with us
It was
today.
really fun.
Yeah, and it was amazing meeting you.
It was so great to meet you. Thank you so much.
Of course.